this row, the third one in. Yeah, it was back to
Oh, okay. He's kind of a big guy. Oh, he looks young. He's got very young ears.
just had a baby.
Yeah, that's too bad.
He might come in first because he has no last
I don't know if I have that. I think if they have this like that.
to celebrate the accomplishments, success, and bright future of the class of 2017. When I was presented with the opportunity to speak at graduation, I wanted to make sure I represented Landmark's impact on me correctly and did justice to the amazing faculty, students, and environment that Landmark embodies. I thought the best way to reflect on my time here at Landmark is the analogy I created so vividly freshman year through my own self-talk and how traffic lights are peculiarly extraordinary metaphors. Freshman year, turmoil. I was lost. I couldn't attend school for more than 2 hours at a time. I was socially ill-equipped and was panicking at the sight of tests. I was suffering from detrimental generalized anxiety, social anxiety, and panic attacks. Green lights, I said to myself. Hit all the green lights. This was my way of saying, the faster you get things done, the quicker time will go by. And sure enough, it was sophomore year. Green light, a permission to proceed. Sophomore year, after an impressive set of circumstances that landed in my favor, I found myself at Landmark. My anxiety dwindled. I met new people. I was in a new environment, and I found new academic success. A light was sparked in me that no one had seen for years. I was beginning to be myself. Still, I had two sisters getting ready for college. I couldn't wait to be them. Keep hitting those green lights, I said walking off the Landmark campus in 2015, and summer flew by. Junior year, things didn't slow down. New memories were being made. I participated in more clubs than ever, took on new opportunities, and finally felt unstoppable. I was focused on being the best version of me and anticipating my college journey next year. Everything seemed right. Until I realized I had hit too many green lights. I wasn't in control of how fast high school was going, and I couldn't make things go slower. A new voice kept bombarding my thoughts. I didn't want high school to end. I didn't want to leave Landmark. I wanted it to slow down. I wanted to play tennis one more time. I wanted to be on the math team. I wanted to stop hitting those green lights. Yellow lights. You must either come to a safe stop, or if you can't stop safely, proceed with caution. My junior year, I realized my light was almost red. High school was almost over, and I hadn't even come close to exhausting all possible opportunities and experiences, and I felt like I just began to scratch the surface at Landmark. Senior year. It wasn't until the spring that things hit me. I was going to be graduating. Red light, a refusal, or an order to stop. Senior year, I reiterated, why didn't I hit the red lights? But then I remembered, if you hit all the green lights, you will never appreciate the red ones. Landmark was my red light. It helped me realize that you need to stop and appreciate what's around you. The red lights, while sometimes irritating because they make you stop rushing, can help you stop and reflect. Reflect on the accomplishments you have made, the amount you have grown and matured, and how an environment like Landmark is rare and special, and not to take the people and community for granted. Now more than ever, standing here on this stage, I wish I hit a few more red lights. Traffic lights are the perfect analogy for the future. They tell you when to go, when to stop, and when to be cautious. I never realized how important the yellow and red lights are. To take the time to stop, even when you can go. To enjoy what's around you and not rush past the little things. Time is your most important, delicate, non-renewable resource. I encourage the class of 2017 to proceed with caution and not miss out on opportunities in college. Landmark students possess infinite qualities. Among them is drive, initiative, passion, and talent. The only thing that will ever get in the way of your success is not going at your own pace. Remember how traffic lights, no matter how fast things are moving, can make you mindful to take in what's around you. In the famous words of Rocky Balboa, no matter how hard life can get, take things one step at a time, one punch at a time, and one round at a time. Thank you.
Strong student, essentially achieving all A's. These exceptional grades are a reflection of his time, energy, and commitment that he has made to his education throughout high school. This year, his schedule consisted of demanding courses including physics, economics, and pre-calculus, all courses which required him to persevere through challenging content, which he accepted with enthusiasm. This student's strong work ethic and commitment has also been seen outside of the classroom. He is a member of both the varsity wrestling and lacrosse teams and has achieved level 6 status within Porterhouse. In his free time, he has been an active volunteer with the Special Olympics program for the past 3 years and is a member of the Landmark Student Advocates program. Both in and out of the classroom, this student is a young man of exceptional character, maturity, and responsibility. A young man who is genuinely liked and admired by his peers and the teachers who have been fortunate to work with him. It is my pleasure to present the overall academic award to Eric Citrano.
Presenting this year's Citizenship Award, which is an annual award given out by the Student Council to an individual who is a model citizen, brings positivity to the campus, and is a persistent individual. This year's recipient makes everyone's day a little brighter and makes us all proud members of the Landmark community. Overall, past 5 years, this individual has shown determination, kind-heartedness, and the ability to spread happiness wherever they go. They are a hard worker, spending the necessary time needed to complete their academic responsibilities, yet has also dedicated countless hours to the Landmark Performing Arts Department. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to give this year's Citizenship Award to Kara O'Neill.
It was here that he met his best friend, Eric Alexander. Unfortunately, Eric's life was cut short in a car accident. When my parents found out that they were having my brother and me, they had asked the Alexanders, Eric's parents, if they could name me after their son. Later, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. I found myself at Landmark in an ironic twist of fate. I ended up exactly where I was supposed to be. Now, 10 years later, this place has become my home. Within the bubble that is Landmark, I have grown from a third grade elementary school student to the student I stand before you today. This place means the world to my family and me, and I cannot begin to describe the pride and honor I have to be able to stand up here before you today and speak on behalf of my class, Eric Alexander, and other alum who have loved and appreciated this place as much as I have. Earlier this year, I was in class watching a lecture by Professor Randy Posh from Carnegie Mellon University. He talked about his dreams, achieving them, as well as the challenges that stopped him. He referred to these challenges as brick walls. He said, "Remember, the brick walls are there for a reason. They're there not to keep us out, but to give us a chance to show us how badly we want something, to stop the people who don't want it badly enough. Dyslexia has been one of these brick walls, but it hasn't stopped me from achieving any dreams. Of course, it's made me have to work harder, but that's all part of life. When things get hard, you have to stick with it, believe in yourself, and work harder. I've been very fortunate to have had the possibility to come to Landmark. This place has showed me that I was capable of reading, writing, graduating high school, and even being accepted to college when everything else told me otherwise. I quickly realized that sending me here was the best thing my parents could have done for me. Over these past 10 years at Landmark, I've come to realize that if you work hard enough and have people willing to be there for you, nothing is out of reach. And as I look back at all that I accomplished, I can be proud in saying that I earned it. I did what others said was impossible. Not too long ago, I remember getting tested for my IEP. Making small talk, the instructor asked me about my plans for next year. I told him about schools I was applying to, and he laughed in my face. He said, "Those are all pretty good schools. Don't you think that's a bit unrealistic with your disability?" All of us up here today went up against these odds in one way or another, and that didn't stop any of you. There may have been ups and downs along the way that made us feel that we couldn't go any further, or the only option was to give up, but we didn't give in. You owe that to yourselves. You gave it your all, stayed positive, and persevered even through the most difficult of challenges. Any of you have taken this opportunity for granted, but you didn't. You did what you had to do to get past those brick walls, and now you're here. You not only made it through high school, but you knocked down those walls, and for that, I congratulate you. But I'd also like to thank the parents and staff here today. Without all of you, we wouldn't be where we are today. For the senior class, our time at Landmark has come to an end. This place that means so much to all of us will become our past, a reminder of the work we have done to pave the paths for our futures. Congratulations, class of 2017. And to end, I'd like to say a quote from one of my favorite movies, "Yo, Adrian, I did it."
When I was asked to speak at graduation, I was in complete disbelief. I mean, I thought they would ask the kid with the highest GPA or the captain of the sports team. But me? A drama kid? And I thought to myself, who has given some of the greatest speeches of all time? There is Lieutenant Aldo Raine from Inglourious Bastards. There is the famous speech from Pulp Fiction. And there is a speech of loyalty from Reservoir Dogs. And I thought to myself, man, I'm a pretty big fan of Quentin Tarantino. And then I thought to myself, my mom is never gonna believe this. So I kept it a secret. So, surprise mom, I'm speaking at graduation. And mom, I'd just like to say this. I did it. We did it. Before I was at Landmark, I remember I would be sitting in class and I was given the task of reading a paragraph, and I remember being completely riddled with fear of messing up or anything. And I remembered when the rest of my class was working on reading, I'd be pulled out to work on remedial tasks. And this was the norm for me, because it's always how it had been. But deep down, I knew that it made me feel different. All of my friends would talk about the events of that class, and I would be completely lost. And it made me feel like I was being judged, like I was different, like I was the runt of the educational litter, small, weak, not expected to survive. Every day I would get my grades back and they would get lower and lower, and those low numbers would look at me and they would whisper that I wasn't going to succeed. 4 years ago, I joined the Landmark Stage Company, performing in over 10 plays, memorizing pages and pages of lines, and in incredibly high numbers. My freshman year, I was given the task of reading a very long monologue, and I was playing the role of a doctor, so it was, language was fairly complex. And for over 2 days, me and my director would work on it. 2 days of laborious tasks of reading it over and over and leaving parts out and having to do it again and again, but finally, I got it. And initially, I didn't believe it, so I did it again. And then I realized that I can now recite an entire page of text, something that I never even dreamed possible. And 6 years ago, this day seems completely out of reach. It was on actually my very own birthday, June 30th, that I received the news that I would be attending Landmark. It was an odd feeling to be barely scraping by in public school. I would fight tooth and nail to get, what, a 52 on a spelling test that I didn't even, on words that I didn't even know existed? High school is hard, especially for people like us. We're all forced to make tough decisions, and we've made mistakes, and we've had to bite the bullet to get where we are today. And yes, we've broken a few eggshells along the way, but now we begin our righteous path as products of preparatory education. And whether that path leads you to the workforce, to a higher education, or to serve with courageous men and women of our armed forces, we know what hardship is. And I've seen kids come here with a first grade reading level, and then walk away reading novels for enjoyment. And I'm not saying this war on education has ended for us. This war will always be there. It's always going to be a battle. It's always going to be tough. But you know what they say about war? War never changes. But now we have the ability that nobody can take away from us, and that's knowledge and education. But to some of Charlie Chaplin, be warned. Knowledge and cleverness can make us cynical, and they can make us work for people who make us out to be like cattle, like machines with machine minds and machine hearts. But we're far from that. We are far from machines. We are learners, we're scholars, we're students. And we're like a cavalry of different minds who can help the world in any way. And deep down, people enjoy living off of each other's happiness. So don't sell yourself out. Finally, there are just a few people that I would like to thank for my time here at Landmark. I'd first to thank all my academic advisors, Mr. Frazier, who left my sophomore year, Ms. Brewer, and then Mr. Hunt, who filled in for Ms. Brewer when she left to go become a fantastic mother. I'd like to thank Mr. Melvin, who took me in as a tiny freshman I was fascinated by the stage, and he taught me everything that I know now. And also, thank you, Ms. Hale, for teaching me a new language. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Chamberlain. Thank you for taking me through the Southwest. An incredibly eye-opening trip. And finally, there's two very special people that I would like to thank. And that is my mother and father, Dean and Angela Skivington. I do not have words to describe the gratitude that I have. And this may all seem like the end, but it's actually just the beginning. And the famous last words of Henry Ward Beecher, who was a famous clergyman, now comes the mystery. Thank you.
You are correct. It is very difficult to follow the students, especially when they've starred in drama. Landmark parents, I'm going to have to put the cheaters on too, because I would concur that things have aged quicker than I would have hoped. Landmark parents, class of 2017, greetings and congratulations. I'm honored to be a small part of your special day, and I would like to thank Bob Rudo, trustees of the Landmark community, for inviting me to be part of this chapter of your story. When Bob called to invite me to speak, I was a little hesitant, nervous for two reasons. First, I can only imagine how flattering sports radio fans and social media would have been if they had heard I was making appearance plans during the stretch drive to make the playoffs. And then agreeing to a date that actually might conflict with the Stanley Cup Finals. Bob convinced me that he had a backup plan should the Bruins have found a way to reach the finals, and he promised to keep it secret. Secondly, I have always admired people who could deliver those poignant, funny graduation speeches. Some have been known to even sing during their address to the students. Well, I hope I don't disappoint today, because I don't sing. In fact, I was probably one of the only kids that tried out for the school choir during my junior year. Graduates, you know, junior year, you're trying to pump up the extracurriculars. You don't want to just be that one-dimensional student for college applications, and I was cut. Therefore, to offset what my wife, who's here today, often refers to me as being a little too stiff, and given that I can't sing, I thought I would borrow a moment from a recent address from someone who is funny and can sing. Now, I have a video of it. I will have to set the stage a little bit. Picture Will Ferrell in a hat, receiving a doctorate degree from USC, delivering something very funny.
I just want you to know you will never be alone on whatever path you may choose. If you do have a moment where you feel a little down, just think of the support you have from this great Trojan family. And imagine me. Literally picture my face singing this song gently into your ear. If I should step of the
Thankfully, they were listening. It wasn't just the parents I'm speaking to. Process, people, passion. I want to share with you a flavor how I have learned about the process. I have spent most of my life chasing the result. In fact, I hate to lose more than I love to win. I was a short order cook at age 13 at a small takeout restaurant called John's Place that closed at 2 a.m. My father was a math teacher who told me math is not a guessing game. I was supposed to chart a path, solve the problem. So he often gave me another one on top of the original problem I was originally trying to solve. One summer, my father and I drove to Boston to play in a league every weekend so I could increase my exposure to the NHL draft. I went away to boarding school at age 15, and my first weeks were filled with tears at night because I was homesick, I was too stubborn to call home, and I couldn't figure out why the letters to home, with no zip code in the front of the envelope, kept showing back up in my own mailbox. During the second week of school, I argued with a teacher who was also the JV soccer coach because he cut me from tryouts after just 2 days. The head of my dorm, a former Marine, my soon-to-be lacrosse coach and chemistry teacher, who could actually pick up a test tube that had just been heated on a Bunsen burner. And he took me for a walk one day, put his arm around me, flat top, and said, "We don't do things like that here." That same fall, the varsity soccer coach stopped me one afternoon after I had been thrown out of my intramural club game to ask what had happened. I explained that I was driving down the field with the ball and a player stepped in front of me, so I ran him over. He asked me why I got a second yellow card. I told him the same player tried the same play and sorted out. After a loss in my junior year, my hockey coach once made me apologize to the opposing coach after I had thrown a small wooden stick that the locker room key had been attached to. While at Harvard, I worked for Jack Crane at the hockey rink, where I cleaned the locker rooms and bathrooms of my teammates for 4 years. Early in my pro career, I had the good fortune of playing with Mr. Raymond Bourque. He gave the puck away one night in front of our net against the Hartford Whalers, and Ray Ferraro scored. When we got back to the bench, all Ray said was, "Listen to the crowd." And they were booing him. He simply stated, "I will be trying the same play next shift." During January of the year we went to the Stanley Cup Finals, our team sat in a small establishment, yes, a bar, in Quebec City, and we were playing what we call the honesty game. I'm not sure anybody understands what that game was, but let me give you a little visual. You walk into a small bar, and there's a round table, and there are a few brown bottles on the table, happen to show up somehow, and there were chairs all the way around the table. And Mike Milbury, who was the coach at that time, he said, "Sit down, boys, you guys are going to figure it out." And he walked out of the room. So we went around the room, and you had to talk about somebody sitting across from you as a teammate, not in a flattering manner. So you can imagine how the night progressed. as a few more cocktails and a few more beers had flown, and it was quite an evening. And we ended up playing and losing in the Stanley Cup Finals that year, and it was the best and most humbling experience ever as a hockey player. In April of 2004, 1,223 NHL games later, I walked out of the Pepsi Center in Colorado, knowing I had likely played my last NHL game. I retired after the 2004-05 lockout, and immediately took a job in admissions at a local boarding school. In 2006, I returned to work for the Bruins as the Director of Player Development. In 2011, I made a bet with myself that if we won the Stanley Cup, I would complete an Ironman triathlon. During the finals that year, I had been training to complete the event, and every morning while in Vancouver, I was running in Stanley Park. Very, very early in the morning of Game 7, I also was the person that swam out to the statue in Stanley Park Harbor to put a Bruins shirt on a mermaid that happened to be wearing a Canucks jersey. Being the general manager of the Boston Bruins is a dream job. Be careful what you wish for. I am not Bill Belichick and I am not Theo Epstein. Boston fans certainly have strong opinions. Watching my wife fight every hour during her pregnancy to give our boys a chance to survive in the hospital with her strength and courage and resolve, while never missing a day in the hospital for 3 months afterwards, was truly inspirational. As graduates of Landmark, you have all benefited from the mission of the school to enable and empower their students to reach their educational and social potential. Landmark selected each of you. Landmark's core principles are reflected in knowing what they do best and how to best provide the building blocks for students who once felt overwhelmed or different from their peers. The process at Landmark has prepared you all for the next chapter of your lives. During my 15 years while playing for the Boston Bruins, I drove past this beautiful campus each year on the way to the Warrens' house for a team clam bake, which had kicked off our season. We handed out milestone awards, met new additions to the Bruins family, and our own boys even ran around the beach, completely oblivious that one of them would be a very part of this campus. I had heard about Landmark, but I certainly did not come to fully appreciate the school until 15 years later. Landmark is a very special community. People impact our lives. During each little story I just told, there were always people and mentors who cared enough to teach and to touch my journey. My parents worked hard, and they have always wanted more for their kids. The varsity soccer coach who stopped to inquire me about my club game was the same coach who invited me to fall tryouts the next year and had me in his starting lineup. He later purchased tickets to the Harvard hockey games and came down and watched me play there. The hockey coach is the same person who sent me a note this April to congratulate the team when they clinched the playoff berth in the playoffs. Jack Corain was a captain of the 1960 gold medal Olympic hockey team. He fought the war, was a firefighter for 50 years. He was a simple, tough, hardworking son of a bitch. I was fortunate enough to be in Colorado when Ray Bourque finally lifted the Stanley Cup. And when I speak to players like Krug or Carlo or McAvoy, I often relay messages that what Ray has quietly passed along. Technology may make all of our lives easier, but it does not replace building relationships with people. Passion and hard work is why I made it to the NHL. By most standards, I was labeled as being too small to play in the NHL. Thankfully, Jean Rattel, Joe Lyons, and Harry Sinden thought otherwise. I almost walked away from playing the game after failing to make the team in 1989. But Rick Bowness, the fellow Maritimer, grabbed me when I reported to Portland, and he reminded me how much I love to play the game. You must follow your passion and learn what you do best. Failure will often provide more insight in what you need to do to be successful. So please do not get discouraged when a roadblock appears. If you become discouraged, think about the long days of your previous career, and remember how you found a new level of self-confidence when you became a part of the Landmark community. Class of 2017, I am truly intrigued by the traits of you and your Generation Z classmates. Your optimism, Your acceptance of new technology, your treatment of others, bridges gaps that used to divide my generation. There will be times ahead where you must fall in line and put on some work clothes. But promise me that you will remember to follow your passion, work hard, and trust that positive results will find you. The most important things in life will not be found in an app on your phone, despite probably the highlight of the day being Will Ferrell. Connect with people and uplift those who need it. I dearly wish I could stand up here today and declare that the Boston Bruins will win the Stanley Cup next year. I dearly wish that I could proclaim the process of continuing to draft and develop young players and retooling on the fly will actually work. In pro sports, wins and losses ultimately define success. I accept the challenge of the job of general manager, and I hear the criticism. But I remain excited about the opportunity and steadfast in my conviction that the belief in the process of building a championship team will ultimately work. I know, my wife will acknowledge this, I have spent far too many days and nights with my head down, focused on my craft, my tasks, and worrying about the results. When I was part of good teams, our collective heads were up. We were aware of our teammates and their struggles. The best teams are built to be collaborative. The best partners in life share in wins and losses. While the head-down approach might seem safer, we get to a better place when we connect with others. Your time at Landmark has come to an end today, but the next chapter is just beginning, and you are the ones now writing the story. Congratulations to the parents, to the class of 2017, and good luck to everybody. Thank you very much.
That Don Sweeney, having completed the requirements of being somebody we love dearly and given the commencement address, is granted his high school diploma from Landmark School. It is now that moment we've all been waiting for, and we are going to present the diplomas to the graduates of 2017.
Jonathan Paul Ahern. Christopher Eric Whalen Belfi. Ryan E. Bottas. Isabella Farah Boussard. Zachary Daniel Bowden Selleck. Grant Noble Buchanan. Gavin T. Carmichael. Antonio D. Chase. Eric Alexander Citrano. Madison Marie Coddington. Jackson Cole. Holton. Dean William Conrad. Kevin Patrick Dalton. Stephen Andrew Henry Davis. Jake Richard Diaco. Gabriel Behringer Dietz. Christina Teresa Pauline Dawson. Ryan Edward Keene Dumont. Samuel Richard Esbenshade. Susanna M. Eustace. Samuel S. Fishman. Melissa Lynn Godette. Amira Gabriel. Peter Walsh Glidden. Ryan Gosselin. Katia Adele Green. Charles Michael Healy. Elizabeth Courtney Hirsch. Garrett M. Poe. Thomas G. Allen. Alec James Hurst. Sam Karat. Henry An Lam Koo. Brian H. M. Greenberg. Cameron Alexander Lane Matthews. Jacob Dunley Lotta. John F. Marr III. Bennett Austin Malvin. Jacob Robert McCaughey. Robert M. McDougall. Andrew Sullivan McNamee. Alexander Nelson. Matthew Robert Nevins. Clara Louise O'Connor. Tara H. O'Neill. Andrew Denton O'Brien. Cooper Norman Zuniga. Philip William Hopkins. Aiden Reed Powers. Riley Francis Procott. Jacob M. Sagarino. Jacob Salloway. Lawrence Schuster. Jake R. Skivington. Robin Hood Southwick. Owen Matthew Sonnenberg. Christopher A. Tchaikovsky. Addie Timberwall. Matthew Lee Tucker. Michael Lee Tucker. Olivia Rose Valenti. Rachel Kate Venuti. Julian Hayes Vibe. James Joseph Wall. Taylor William Weeks. Samuel Wingdon. Zachary K. Wilcox. Samantha Jefferson Ann Williams. Douglas A. Wooden. Now I will welcome Headmaster Bruto back to the podium for his closing remarks. Thank you.
Seats as the Pipers lead first the faculty, then the trustees, and then our graduates in our recessional march.
Yeah.